All right, people, midweek report time. So, it's been a busy week, to say the least. It's been a busy week in the world of boxing. The main news, which we're going to start off with, is Joshua versus Ngannou, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Friday. Sounds weird saying Friday, but Friday, the 8th of March. Turki Al-Sheikh has also said that the winner, even though there is a rematch clause for Fury Usyk, which does kind of have me wondering what will happen in that scenario, because it's a two-way rematch clause, the winner will get a crack at Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Okay? Now, they announced the Joshua card. They did the press conference in London on Monday, and this is the card. Jack McGann, Roman Fury, a guy whose name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, Justice Haney, Mark Chamberlain, Gavin Gwynn, Ray Vargas, Nicky Ball, great fight that is, and Zhilei Zhang, Joe Parker, another excellent fight. So the undercard for Joshua versus Ngannou looks pretty good. It's not quite the day of reckoning undercard, but it's still a very, very good undercard, as they normally are the case in Saudi Arabia. I mean, as I said, Nicky Ball, Ray Vargas, it's a main event. It's a main event on the Queensberry show, no questions asked. It's probably not even going to be co-main event on this card. So the Saudis really do know what they're doing when they put these shows on. And some people would make the question, well, how long will the Saudis be able to do these types of shows? As in, have amazing shows, big undercards. I liken it to when Al Heyman started with PBC all those years ago. And he was buying time on other networks. He was paying fighters good money. They were having easy fights. We were getting boxing all the time. Pretty much. Like, it seemed like every other week we were getting a name, a Carl Frampton, a Lee Selby, etc. We were seeing them fight. Was it sustainable? Of course it wasn't. Look at the way PBC is now. I think with the Saudis, it's a little bit more sustainable than that. But will it last forever? No, I don't think it will. I don't want to sound negative, but I don't think it will. But I am going to enjoy it. I, for one, am going to enjoy this while we have it. We're getting big fights. We're getting great undercards. We're getting fights that would take an absolute... I mean, think of it like this. We've got Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren working together. After all those years, it just seemed like, never going to happen. There you go. Saudis, there's the bag. There you go. Do what you got to do. So that is the Joshua Ngannou undercard in its entirety. In terms of how I think the fight will go, as I've said before, I expect Anthony Joshua to win. I don't really see how Francis Ngannou... Look, there are heavyweights out there that I probably would pick. Carlos Takam was one of the names, but just his name came into my head there. I would pick over the likes of, say, Carlos Takam, Derek Chisora, someone like that. But you're talking about two top 5 heavyweights in Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Respect in your first 2 fights. I mean, that's not easy, but I just don't see him beating him. I don't see him beating Anthony Joshua. I think that Joshua will have the fight that Tyson Fury should have had. That's the best way I can explain it. Anthony Joshua will have the fight Tyson Fury should have had with Ngannou. I think that's what's going to happen. So that's that fight in a nutshell. Turki Al-Sheikh has also said that he is trying to make, or that they will be trying to make, Beterbiev versus Bivol for the undisputed world titles at light heavyweight in Saudi Arabia in the month of June. So that won't be in Riyadh season, obviously. I mean, no one really expected it to be anytime soon, but June. So that's from now until June, which is the halfway point. We could potentially have undisputed heavyweight Joshua Ngannou. We could get that match. I reckon, because they're talking about doing Matchroom versus Queensberry, 5 of Eddie Hearn fighters against 5 of Frank Warren's fighters. I suspect that to me doesn't seem like a show you would just do in Saudi Arabia, with big money for no reason. I reckon they'll put that on maybe a Beterbiev Bivol undercard. So the undercard is Queensberry Matchroom, which again, I'll take it. I mean, I was kind of brainstorming the other night on iBoxing Hub show with a couple of ideas that, there was talk that these could be the fights, but I was kind of just brainstorming a couple of fights. And, if I was to go from like prospect level, I'd have Johnny Fisher at Telma, because you want 2 prospects, heavyweights ideally. You want to stack the heavyweights. A Telma versus Fisher I would have Sam Noakes against Gary Cully at 135, because I think that fight could be electric. Gary Cully, Sam Noakes. I would also... who else would I have? I'm just trying to think really kind of who else I would have. So he's just trying to think off the top of my head. I'd have those 2. I would maybe if Fabio Wadley re-signed with Matchroom, because we don't know really where he's at, if Fabio Wadley went back to Matchroom, I'd do Dubois versus Wadley. I would do Dubois versus Wadley or Dubois versus Dylan White if he was allowed to box again. I do that. You know me, I like the heavyweights. I want to keep the heavyweights. I would do that. I seen someone suggest this, and on paper it sounds fun, but it could get real ugly real quick. Nicky Ball, Josh Warrington. That could get real ugly for Josh Warrington, but I would watch it. And then finally I would go, ooh, I can't think of his name now actually. His name has just escaped me. Hamza Sheeris versus Felix Cash at middleweight. Domestic clash. There you go. That'd be my 5 fights. So let me know what you guys would do for your 5 fights. But in terms of fights that we know are happening, Fury versus Usyk, we know that's happening February 17th. It's getting closer now. We're less than a month away. And the undercard is starting to take shape. David Nyeka, Bakadir Jalilov. I heard his opponent has recently been announced, and I think he's like 12-2 or something. It's not a great opponent for Bakadir Jalilov. Atauma, Low IQ, Kovalev, Joe Cordina versus Kakache. Chris Andre made me aware of this, right? He posted it on X today, that the Fury Usyk fight is on BoxRec. The undercard is on BoxRec, with the exception of Opataya versus Briedis, which has been announced for this card, but it's not on BoxRec. Now, that's not a smoking gun. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. I seen the Zone even advertising it earlier today, so I would imagine that it is. Maybe it's a BoxRec administration error. I don't know. But BoxRec is not gospel at the end of the day. If there's a fight that's not on there, but you know what's happening, you know, it's probably happening. So I just did find that interesting that out of all the fights on that card, that's the one that's not there. Interesting. The WBA have ordered Martin Bacoli versus Cassius Chaney as a final eliminator for the WBA mandatory status. It hasn't clarified whether that will be for Alexander Usyk's world title, which the mandatory was fulfilled when he fought Dubois in the summer just gone, or for Manuel Char's regular title, which is still knocking around. Amazingly. Has he ever even defended that? I heard someone say that he's going to be fighting Kubrat Pulev for that title. I mean, honestly, like, that regular title is just such a joke. I thought they were going to do away with it, but Char still has it. He's done nothing. I mean, the highlight of his career the last 6-7 years has been that win over Lovejoy, Christopher Lovejoy. That's it. I mean, that's that's it. In terms of other fight cards that have been announced, I seen it was announced today, and I will tell you in its entirety the card. It was, well, obviously Frank Warren was teasing the potential of having another Magnificent 7, and he's announced it. Well, actually it's called Magnificent 7 Rides Again. Nathan Heaney versus Brad Pauls, Liam Davis versus Eric Robles Alaya, Joe Joyce Cash Ali, Solomon Dacus. Now he was rumored to be fighting David Alaya, to be confirmed. That's the only fight with to be confirmed on it, so I would say it's not dead in the water that fight will happen, but unlikely. Even with Solomon Dacus, I mean, you treat him with kid gloves because he's an accident waiting to happen. Dennis McCann versus Brad Strand, Zach Parker, Tyrone Zung, and Eaton James versus Owen Cooper. Not a bad card. I mean, the last Magnificent 7 was very, very good for Frank Warren. I think it was a slightly better card on paper, to be honest with you, the first one. But this is still a good little show. Joe Joyce, though, fighting Cash Ali. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, that is really a fall from grace. It really, truly is. I really don't know what to make of that, to be honest with you. Cash Ali. Unreal. I would expect Joe Joyce to win that fight by stoppage. Cash Ali is not great. Joe Joyce is really going to need to see where he's at, where his head's at after those 2 losses to Zhilei Zhang. But look, against someone like Cash Ali is someone you're going to go in there against, and you're just going to go in there and steamroll him. Because I don't think he's going to really be able to give much in the way of resistance. He's very limited. The one thing I genuinely would be worried about is that he bites you or does something to get himself thrown out, because I think against David Price, the logic was, well, that he's a tough guy, and he didn't want to get knocked out, rather just go out like that and bite the guy and get yourself DQ'd. He seems a very off character, does Cash Ali. So let's wait and see. There might be some drama in that fight, but not drama in a sense of upsets or anything like that. God knows what Cash Ali will do. Apparently Luis Ortiz came back over the weekend with a first round knockout. Okay, 44 years old officially, apparently I should say. 44 years old. My guy taking pages out of Luke Littler's book. He doesn't look 44. Looks a lot older than that. Adrian Broner on Instagram actually went and called out Devin Haney for a shot at the BBC 140-pound title. He says he can't punch himself out of a wet paper bag. AB, what's he doing these days? What, he signed with Don King last year, as if you thought Broner couldn't stoop any lower. You can hold me up to this one, right? I was thinking, people always ask me to do a WTF video on Adrian Broner. And where do you start with a WTF video on Adrian Broner? Not just his career, just in general. I mean, there's so much. There's so much. I will do one as a 20k special. When we hit 20k, whenever that may be, maybe summertime, maybe a bit after, but when we hit 20k, we'll do a WTF on Adrian Broner. That will be the reward to everything. 20k WTF Adrian Broner. We'll do it. We'll do the whole 9 yards for that. We'll do it all. I'll make sure it is the best WTF video I've ever done. I will. Once we hit 20k. Sandor Martin has signed a multi-fight promotional deal with Bob Arum and Top Rank. Okay, he is mandatory for Devin Haney. Now, oh boy, Sandor Martin versus Devin Haney. I mean, Sandor Martin beat Mikey Garcia. That was on DAZN. He had a very lackluster affair with Teofimo Lopez. It was a split decision loss, but Sandor Martin, we know what we're going to get with him. Him against Devin Haney, that really could be, that could be a boxing purist's fight, really. That really could be that. When I look at 140 with Devin Haney, I can kind of see why he's thinking of maybe moving up to 147. And I see Terence Crawford is back in the gym. I think the Errol Spence fight, given the fact that Spence has the eye injury, if it's not on hold, it's probably going to get binned. And if that is the case, look, people would say the likely thing for Terence Crawford to do next is go to 154. Yeah, but I'd love to see him fight Boots Ennis. I would. I'd love to. If I could make a fight in this year that hasn't already been done, it would be Boots Ennis versus Terence Crawford. I want to see that fight. Because I think Boots Ennis is tremendous. We know Crawford is absolutely tremendous. I mean, he is just unbelievable, is Terence Crawford. Insane. I want to see those two guys go at it. I really do. I think it would be absolutely tremendous. Turki Al-Sheikh has declared that he wants the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev to move up and face Jayot Bataya at cruiserweight. Now, I could easily see Beterbiev moving up to cruiserweight. That'd be an interesting fight because obviously he fought as a heavyweight as an amateur, 200 pounds. Bivol wouldn't look out of place at 168. I couldn't see him. Now, saying that, he'll have tremendous speed at 100 or 200 pounds, but still, I think, it's not like someone saying, okay, you're undisputed at 147, move up to 154. You're only talking, 7 pounds? The jump from light heavy to cruiser is extreme. It's 25 pounds. It's no joke. It really is no joke. It's quite weird, isn't it? Because you look at the lightweight divisions, the really lightweights, I mean, like the flyweights, minimum weights, stuff like that. And the jump in weights, it's between 4 pounds, 3 pounds. It's not much. It goes slightly higher as you go through the weights. It goes up slightly. And then kind of from 140 to basically 175, it's kind of 7 pounds, 7 pounds, 7 pounds, 7 pounds. And then it's a big whoosh, 25 pounds. I mean, that's nearly 2 stone you're going up in weight from. That's massive. And, the people who go from light heavy to cruiser, the likes of Gilberto Ramirez, you look at them and just think, how the hell do you even get to 175 in the first place? You don't look at Bivol and think, how's he getting to 175? I'm sure he obviously feels it on the scales, but I wouldn't imagine he is, going without food for God knows how long, trying to make weight. I wouldn't imagine that. So I don't know how that would work out if Bivol did. It'd be a good fight, don't get me wrong. Bivol, look, I'm not saying that's the only reason why I think Jai Opetaia would go in as favourite, but size definitely, weight divisions are there for a reason. That's what I will say on that. Turki Al-Sheikh has said that he wants to bring Gervonta Davis and Tank Davis and Devin Haney to fight in Saudi Arabia. He says, I want him, Davis, and I send Al Heyman message now, this is what the quote says, to Al Heyman, let's do the job, brother. I want to see Haney in my country. I will try to do that in 2024. We'd all like to see Devin Haney versus Tank Davis. I know I would. I think that would be a tremendous fight. Absolutely tremendous. He's also said that he won't be bringing any more YouTube boxing to Saudi Arabia. Obviously, he doesn't like the YouTube fight. Fair enough. Absolutely fine. Fair enough. The YouTube fights really, they have more of a place in the UK. They seem to be very popular in the UK. The KSIs, people like that, Tommy Fury's, because God knows what he's doing now. Is he a YouTube fighter? Is he a professional? Yes, Queensbury, British Boxing Board of Control. They seem to lap that up over, in Manchester and in London and places like that. I guess in Saudi Arabia, you wouldn't have many, YouTube fans going over there to watch a fight. But look, Turki Al-Sheikh, he's obviously doing the big fights in the main sport. YouTube boxing, this doesn't come, it's not even on his lips. Oscar De La Hoya, this is interesting. This is Ryan Garcia and De La Hoya. He says, looks like Ryan Garcia versus Jose Ramirez is getting closer. Apparently, De La Hoya was saying something like that they've all priced themselves out, that Rowley priced himself out, and so did Isaac Cruz. They both priced themselves out of a potential fight, so Jose Ramirez is next. And obviously Ramirez has recently signed with Top Rank. Ryan Garcia comes out and tweets, no Ramirez, let's make that clear. So, what is happening? And then he goes and says Oscar versus Ryan at this point. Yeah, they're always seeming to be at each other's throats, those two. Listen, Ryan Garcia clearly wants a world title. He clearly wants Rowley. It's the easiest crack at a world title. It's like taking candy from a baby. It really is. It's like, imagine you're a king. You're a legendary king. You rule your kingdom with an iron fist. And you think you're going to have a long life. You don't have any kids and you die suddenly. And, oh yeah, my little brother is taken. Oh God, everything's gone to crap and we're getting invaded left, right and centre. That's what it's like. It's like Rowley is he is the worst champion in boxing. He is the worst champion in boxing, and he is going to be absolute cream for these guys, the Ryan Garcias, the Devin Haneys of the world. Even Barroso in a rematch, I think, has a very good chance against him. So let's see what Garcia does. I also seen here that Turki Al-Sheikh has said that Joshua versus Wilder is still a fight to make. If Wilder can make a successful comeback following his defeat to Joseph Parker, we want him to come back. Now, I'm saving this for a separate video, which I might get out either this evening or certainly first thing in the morning. Deontay Wilder recently gave an interview. Now, I'll talk a bit more about it in a separate video. It wasn't with a boxing channel or anything like that. One of my friends actually sent me a link to it, and I listened to it. It wasn't an easy listen, all right? And I'll tell you in the separate video where to listen to the boxing talk in it. But he was basically talking about coming back in March, saying he has the hunger back. And if he is coming back in March, as Deontay Wilder himself has said in this video, again, I'll talk about it more in a separate video, it would make logical sense that it would be on Joshua's undercard, wouldn't it not? He's obviously not announced for it, but PBC, what's going on with them? Have we even heard a date when they're starting with Amazon? So while they're saying he's back in March, well, let's wait and see. Like I said, I'll touch on that more in a separate video. For now, we'll just focus on what's been going on in the news over the last few days. Callum Smith versus Richard Riakporhe 2, now signed to take place for Billam Smith's next world title fight. So no Cody rematch. God knows what's happening with him. He said that it will either be in Bournemouth's Vitality Stadium or Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park. You'd imagine Bournemouth's Vitality Stadium. They did a good turnout there with Billam Smith last time. They did a really good turnout there last time. All right, so Billam Smith, Riakporhe. I mean, Riakporhe has been doing, well, what has he been doing since he joined Boxer? I mean, I know he was with Matchroom for a while. He's working with Dillian Whyte, and you know, he got the win over Billam Smith. It was a good fight, and then he was just on the shelf for 2 years. And Boxer had just been feeding him. I mean, he went from headlining to fighting on undercards, literally with Boxer. I mean, it's been just sad. Whereas Billam Smith, yeah, he got his world title shot. He won. He beat a Cody. And then he has his fight against Mastinak before Christmas, and he was getting lit up in that fight. Lit up. And Mastinak is a useful fighter, or at least he certainly was a couple of years ago. But safe to say, probably has seen better days than he did against when he fought Tony Bellew. He was a lot more alive back then. So Billam Smith didn't look good in that fight. Him against Riakporhe, yeah, it was a close fight the first time. Billam Smith has been at a higher level, but he's looked vulnerable. Whereas Riakporhe has looked, devastating, but he's been fighting, either names who are over the hill like Glowacki and Ola Duradola, or just who the hell was that, So, look, let's see. That seems to be all Boxer can really do now, is just try and get these in-house fights, and hope that they do something. It's not looking good for Boxer. I was watching Propa's video and he pretty much summed it up. It's not looking good. Boxer has just been dead, and you see it in the comments of all Boxer's posts. It's like, dead card, don't like this undercard. It's not looking good for them over at Sky. Certainly at the minute. I think that's pretty much it. I will leave you with that, people. Like I said, I'm going to record a video on Wilder's comeback literally as soon as I finish this and get it uploaded. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It might be this evening. It might be tomorrow. Wait and see. But for now, I will leave you with that. Peace.